And we're live.
Welcome. This is the Village of Gulf Manor Executive Committee meeting. It's Monday, June 26th, 2023. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Brown? Sorry.
No Crown. Mr. Fisher is absent. Mr. Knipp.
Here.
Mr. Michelson is absent. Mr. Simile.
Here.
Present. Mr. Van Harn.
Here.
Okay.
We have enough Anthony? Okay.
We have so motion to excuse Mr. Fisher. We do one for each or one for?
I think you could do a motion for both if you like.
Okay, motion to excuse both. Mr. Fisher and Mr. Mickelson are both contacted us. So.
Motion to excuse Mr. Fisher and Mr. Michelson. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Got our work cut out for us tonight, Danny.
I might have to think or something.
Is who's doing the report? Is that supposed to be? Is it you or is
Who's
it
doing what?
just curious? The maintenance department. Oh,
Jim's supposed to be here.
okay. So we have to wait for them.
So you adopting the agenda?
Yeah, motion to adopt the agenda as it is. I don't really have anything to add to it.
So moved.
Everything is gonna happen.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Nobody's registered tonight to speak. Motion to approve the minutes, if everybody's reviewed it from last meeting. I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll wait for Jim. Is there anything you know of, Ron, on the pending business we have? I know all that's kind of floating.
No, in fact, I just texted Jim. Thinking he may think he's supposed to be there for the mini meeting.
Felt so bad. Both literally and figuratively. We'll make it up.
So apparently he thought it was at 6:30. He's on his way. All right, so if you would like, I can talk to you about a couple of these things. Did everybody have a chance to read his report?
Yes. Which report?
Jim's report.
I did not.
So there is a link in the packet called Maintenance Project Update. So the reason that I asked for him to do this update this evening was in a couple of other meetings that I've been aware of or have been in. There's a perception that we have this maintenance department who can do all of these things. And we just bought the new backhoe, so we have more equipment we can do things with. And while I'm very proud and very happy that we have a talented staff who can do a lot of things, they're pretty much maxed out right now. And part of that comes from this being the summer months. We also do abatement of properties when they're not being compliant with our grass cutting. We have municipal properties that we have to maintain throughout the summer. In addition to the regular maintenance stuff that needs to go on in both parks. And then if there's anything that comes up with roads, whether it's removal of creatures or any kind of weather-related activity, those kinds of things. That's a major responsibility for them to deal with. And coming into each day, they never really know what's going to happen that day or what might get railroaded. So what our railroaded, I might get sidetracked. That being the case, I think it's important that everybody's aware of the amount of work that they are doing on a regular basis. And I think it's helpful for council to be aware of the volume of work that they're involved in. One of the things that Jim did with the project list here is to note what the normal service department stuff is in the first section. And then in the second section, one of the bigger projects that's lingering from the winter months was the redo of the police clerk's office. That office had not been renovated for a long time. It was a pretty rough working condition, and they completely remodeled that area, restructuring the lights, rewiring. They took a door out that didn't need to be there anymore. They made it a much more palatable environment for the clerk to work in. It's also more efficient for her. If you have a chance, peek in the window, but it turned out really well. In addition to that, we also cleaned up some other problems that had taken place back in that area. Still on the agenda is working on the other side of the police department. There's a project that was started a couple of years ago to try and figure out how to best efficiently use that space for more people. They haven't really started anything in the current project list on that right now, but that's something that's coming, and that's probably going to be a winter job for next year. The other thing that's forthcoming is whatever we're going to do with this kitchen in the municipal hall. It needs renovation. We've talked about it. We're trying to budget for it so that there's some ability to have funding for dealing with that. The nice thing is that with Mr. Putoff's skills from a construction standpoint, that's an expertise that we did not have on staff until he joined us in our public works manager position. And he's able to bring a lot of that expertise to us. I'm kind of holding off and going through all this stuff until he gets here. But one of the things that I want to make sure everybody's aware of, that we have only 2 full-time employees in our maintenance department. That would be Joe and Jason. Jim is actually part-time, and then we fill in an equivalent of a full-time employee with 3 part-time people. So we have Eric Lett, Andy McGinnis, and McGinnis, Lett, and
Aiden.
who am I missing? Hayden Matala. They are the ones who fill that third position. So we can do more with maintenance. We need more people essentially, but I think we're getting a lot of work out. I have not gone through the project list. I talked a little bit about why we're having this discussion today. So do you want to talk more specifically about?
Did you share the list with everyone?
Yes, everybody's got
Okay,
it.
so everyone's got it? Yeah, so clearly we're not ready to comment. In October I had a meeting and I wanted to get every department head's list of things they wanted for this year so we could make a list, prioritize, find out where to fund. And like all projects, like Denise's office was the first thing we were gonna do for the PD. That got delayed and delayed and delayed. Some of that I'll take responsibility for. The lesson I learned is when I'm gonna do a project, I'm gonna be completely in charge of it. I'm not gonna let anybody else have any, I'm gonna act somewhat like a general contractor on it and have control over every aspect. So things were delayed in getting ordered and, coordination of the floor coming in and things like that. We got it done. It took a lot longer than we wanted it to. The park project, we're still working on. That's taken longer, and we had a horrible time digging because of the fill that was put in there when they did the park. we're doing this in conjunction with the shade sales, which was, we outsourced that. And we had to help those guys with our backhoe because their big auger just wouldn't go through 2 areas. And we pulled out concrete, steel, asphalt, clay, like clay pipes, some weird blue thing, substance, we didn't know what it was. So it slowed things down, so we've been kind of helping them. Well, at one point I was,
Wonder.
yeah, so, that slowed that down. All the underground wiring is in place, it's roughed in. I just need to finish my end of hooking it up.
It's awesome. Looks good.
Yeah, so we're, when it comes to the park and projects like that, I wanna talk about, not right now, but what we wanna do in the future, because if we're gonna have other projects for maybe this year or beginning of next, I don't wanna spend a lot of money doing reclamation work on the park, which is renting a roller, rolling it out, topsoil, things like that, if we're gonna be more heavy equipment across. So it's gonna be a construction site for a little bit longer. But that has taken up a lot of our time. What's not on this project, well, what is on the top of the project list is just the regular maintenance, the regular mowing that we have to do. And I'm trying to get us out of having to mow problem properties, but that's not working out real well with our absentee landlords and we have one landlord who lived in Canada, so we couldn't get a hold of him, so we had to know that. We're also going into vacation time in the summer, so guys are going on vacation, and I'm part-time, and I'm doing 2 jobs, so I help when I can, but, you know, like on the park project, I just try to organize things and I'll do the actual wiring. And I'm teaching those guys how to do some more electrical work. But then we're going into the fall, we're gonna have leaves. Ron, I didn't get a chance to talk about this project that I thought about. Where the fence is down over there. That used to be a row of Bradford pears. There's trees, there's only one tree left. Those are actually invasive species.
Yes.
I want to cut the last one down on that row, and then Eric showed me where we could order trees 10 foot high for like what, $30 a pop?
So there's through Hamilton County Public Health with, it's basically the mayor's tree program, would be through the same order form.
So that'll solve a couple problems. It'll put some nice trees that are indigenous back in the park, and we don't have to do anything on that sidewalk now. That'll be the barrier to keep people from driving in there. And it won't cost us much.
So for that sidewalk, we're still looking at putting planters along there, right?
We can, but with the trees as well. The thing about the planters that I like is they're redeployable. If we get to where we don't need them there, we can put them other places, we can move them. I still think we should do that, but I think the trees are gonna be a more permanent solution to this problem. And we had trees there for years and the storms took them out.
So the
They
other,
have shade too. I mean, a lot of people during events, they sit under those trees,
Yeah.
so that makes a big deal.
the other project that we're working on that we really haven't reported on is trying to deal with the garbage cans of the village. We have been slowly redeploying and moving them around and trying to determine what to replace them with. We've got a couple of sample cans that the maintenance department is working with. We think we've settled on one that works, but that particular project that's something else that the maintenance department is going to be involved in.
Yeah, I think we got all the cans out that were removed that we're gonna remove, and I have a count. Sorta's website's not very good. I'm gonna go out tomorrow and confirm what I found on the website as far as where bus stops are. Ron and I discussed that with a bench and a garbage can at the bus stops. The bench will help, as long as it's in the room, it'll help keep people off private property. Rumpke, we've had some problems with them emptying the garbage cans. So the garbage cans that we're gonna put in are the exact ones they recommend that they will empty. So, but we're not gonna have near the garbage cans out in the public that we had before, which we had way too many. Way too many. And actually, we're keeping the cans and they're gonna get redeployed in park for events. So instead of those cardboard ones from Rumpke, we're gonna have the hard plastic ones that we'll be able to.
But that's an example of smaller projects that pop up all the time that we're trying to address while all this big stuff's happening at the same time. The other huge project that just seems like it has gone on for as long as I've been here is trying to get a hold of the technology needs of the building and finish up our major technology projects. There's still a number of projects that need to be completed in the hall. We're also moving the server room from its current space in the gym to the old communications booth, I guess you'd call it, over in the fire department. That's going to be a secure room for our servers, and we'll be able to expand and have a better place there for emergency power when we need it, when the power goes out. That in itself is a huge undertaking. The wiring's all in the building. It just needs to be moved to different places at this point. And the maintenance department has been a big piece of that. I don't think we have a time frame on that yet.
I have a call in to Steve from B&J to see where we're at with that project.
Okay.
Because a lot of it depends on, we're waiting on them to do their end of it.
Because we are installing a new generator on the roof to be able to handle that when the power goes out. The current one, it just isn't big enough to do what it needs to do anymore. Plus it's old,
Very old.
so.
Another thing we got going is that, I don't know if you guys know, but we purchased a brine spreader that fits in the back of the F-250 and a brine mixer so we can make our own brine. That came in last week, so now we're working on configuring things so we can have that, we can place to store it and how we're going to utilize it in the wintertime. So we'll be able to put treat streets, which we've never really been doing before.
Very safe.
Do it. Money and time, yes, especially on some of the smaller snowfalls. It's really going to cut down the amount of plowing on the roads on we put down. So
the other thing that's going to be an onboard or a forthcoming project is when we make a decision on tree purchases, which is it's kind of a side business with the mayor's tree program. The maintenance department most likely will do those installations too. We need to talk about that, but that's just thinking about things that are coming up. That's probably going to be a fall thing.
and that's why we have a backhoe. Because we couldn't do it unless we had it.
So, and I think we reported in council the last time that we are going to be working with a nonprofit that's based in Camp Washington on disposal of our leaves, which will be a cost savings for us. We won't have to pay for leaf dumping, but it's a closer solution to us. And supposedly we're getting a leaf chipper or a brush chipper
Yeah.
out of the deal from the county. So that'll help us. In fact, we needed that a couple of weeks ago when a tree went down in Graceland.
Yeah, and that's the other point too, is that, you know, that's like plants. You know, when we have to come in on a Sunday to, spend 4 hours removing a tree from Graceland, and really that was just to get street open, then we had to go back the whole next day and deal with it. It just puts us back again another day. So there's all those unplanned things that, we can have the best laid plans and all of a sudden something pops up.
So the flexibility of the part-time staffing in that department too helps us when we have situations like we were planning for yesterday when there are severe weather alerts. There's usually somebody who's available that we can call in when that happens. That's also helpful for us during the wintertime when we're doing the snow shoveling. But
Yeah, we kind of pre-planned it, like I already had the guys lined up that we could make it in. Ron and I have had this discussion too with our part-time guys, is that we need to have a way to pay them. I would like to see them get paid time and a half when we call them in on nights and weekends. They all work full-time as firefighters, and you call them midnight on their day off to come in and plow or do something like this for straight pay when everyone else, Joe and Jason are getting time and a half. Yeah, I mean, and I think we looked, there was like 10 times we got called in, we called it part-time during last year. Total. So it's not gonna be a huge amount of money, but we need to incentivize to make it worth our while, I think, to come in.
Can we send that up to council if we get a motion to do that? Or how-
we'll make a recommendation
Yeah.
and then bring that to council for discussion.
Ron and Eric gotta do their, budget stuff on it first. We just agreed to it in principle, but
Okay.
it's something that, is forthcoming.
I think it's something we need to take a look at. So, because it's very similar to the STEP program that we're doing with the police department, which is the Strategic Traffic Enforcement Program. It pays a higher rate to incentivize officers to do that car. I see it as a similar program, just for different employees. So.
Yeah, and I'm getting too old to do some of that work. I came in and helped on that Graceland tree, and yeah, whipped my butt. But that's another example of that backhoe. If we didn't have that backhoe, that would have been. Yeah, because the way that the thing, when it rolled off that car, we had to actually lift it up, cut branches underneath and set it back down. I don't know, we would have done some sketchy stuff if we didn't have that piece of machinery. So, just so you know, it's getting used an awful lot.
The other cost issue to think about too is we received an $11,000 grant to do the improvements to the amphitheater. That was based on doing the work internally. So we have the ability to apply for grants and get more bang for the buck by being able to do some of these projects in-house. But that's also a leveraging thing too. Our maintenance department is responsible for making sure that the restrooms are clean and our building is taken care of on the inside, and whatever maintenance things need to go in on the rest of the building. Our maintenance department has actually taken over the servicing of the HVAC system, supported by Geiler, but changing filters and stuff like that, we're going to be doing internally now. So all of those projects are things that are saving us money and allowing us to do more with less funding. So, but it keeps them busy all the time. So,
Yeah, they have plenty. Two questions?
Yeah, a couple things. Does that technology realm you talked about, does that include Wi-Fi in the park? Is that part of this? I know we talked about trying to.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Does the technology effort that you're doing, does that include a Wi-Fi in the park?
So there is Wi-Fi over there already. It's password protected for our use and for the cameras that are over there.
Oh.
There's the ability to expand that. We're not at that point yet.
Okay.
So is it on the list? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not on this list at the
Yeah,
current
that
time.
list is stuff that projects that are given the green light that are pretty much funded. We just gotta find the time to get it done.
And then, when you said the STEP program, is it funding from elsewhere that's gonna do, you said it's like the STEP program to do some stuff? Or is
No,
that
the
something
STEP
we're gonna
program for the
budget?
police department comes out of the general fund, I believe, and from the police levy.
I mean, it would be one of the two.
Yeah, it's basically figured in as the regular payroll for the
It depends on
police
the employee.
department, which is how we would deal with it with service.
Right. It depends on the employee. Certain employees are paid from the police levy, certain employees are paid from the general fund.
Okay.
So depending on the employee that it is in that program, that's where the money comes from.
Okay, I missed the connection of what that was about, so, okay. And then, is it possible to, I know I've talked to the police about it where they have the details, that we can have a detail program for side projects with guys like that, or can we do something like that? If there's a project that is over and above their normal hours, but, they're paid on a detail to do something else,
I don't think that they're opposed to a reasonable amount of that, but we would have to figure out how that's gonna be paid.
Right.
What line item is that coming out of?
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't understand the question. What is the purpose of the detail?
Well, basically, when an officer, I'll do it the way I learned it, is if they do like the festival of nativity or they do something
Got it.
else, it's a detail.
Right.
It's over and above their work with the police department in terms of who get, paid and taxes and all the other stuff. Yeah, but they're paid on a detail, an hourly
The PD does that currently.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
The PD does that currently.
I know, I was suggesting that idea for possibly the maintenance department to have a detail.
How would that work though? Because I mean, like Nativity pays for the police to do that detail. Like in this case, they're doing the work for the village. So
Yeah,
it's not like somebody else would be hiring them to do the work.
So here's an example of a problem we had to solve just a couple of weeks ago. We had Juneteenth on Friday. We had yoga in the park at 10 a.m. on Saturday. So you have a kind of a big messy event. And then a smaller, more contained event the following morning. And then on Sunday, we had a group booked in the park for a Father's Day event. So we were concerned what the condition of the park was going to be on Saturday morning, particularly the area where they were going to be set up. We polled our associates to see who would be interested in coming in to do a check of the park. And we had one person, I believe, came in to check on garbage
Multiple
cans.
guys said they would do it, but I only brought one guy in.
Okay.
And just to empty garbage, change liners out, and just make sure everything was good to go for the next event.
And so for the full-time employees, that would have been paid as time and a half if it took them over their regular 40 hours for the work week. For the part-time employees, it would have been paid just what their regular rate is. So, but that's kind of like detail work, of how we handle it internally. The issue is what we learned from that is as we are having more events in the park, we need to make sure that these folks sit down with us and explain to us what their entire program looks like for a specific day so we can anticipate these kinds of things and make sure that we have support, particularly if we have functions that are booked back to back to back. We've never had that problem before, so it's kind of a good problem to have. But on the other hand, I think we're thinking forward to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, Ron and I had a discussion about for these events in the future that we would like to meet with the organizers at least 2 weeks out, just to get an idea of what they want from us, what their time frame is, and the logistics of it. Juneteenth worked out well, but we started early that day because we had to help the shade. The park was not in a good place. We ended up having to backfill a lot of the stuff for them. We got 5 cubic yards of playground mulch to make the playground usable. And the guys were, he said he was going to knock some off for Tafford, help them out, but it was things like that, mowing the day of the event and just the bathrooms clean. Those are the things we know, and if we had a bunch of other stuff thrown in at the last minute, it would have been problematic. So that's when I decided, okay, we need to meet with organizers 2 weeks out so we can have a timeline of it. And Danny and I talked, was it yesterday or today?
Yes,
Yeah.
today and a couple days ago.
About what his needs are going to be for 4th of July. So moving forward, that's what we're going to do with these events.
And that discussion is taking place this week, right? Or has?
It already is.
Okay.
We just did it on the phone. It's not that he needs a lot of stuff. It was more timeline when he wants to set up so we know when to have everything mowed by. Right. Because they can't say anything up until it's mowed.
Is the concession stand in good shape?
As far as I know, that's on the list of things to do.
Okay.
Is that something we should add to the event permit? Like a checkbox or something for, because when you
Yeah,
that's a flag.
if nothing else, we're gonna have to empty garbage. So,
It's probably not a bad idea.
but as you can see from the list, we're not short of work at all.
And this is just, I missed part of what you said, there's 2 full-time people and then 2 part-time?
3 part-time
part-time?
and myself.
3 part-time who fill 40 hours per week equivalent.
Okay, all right.
So essentially we have like 3 full-time people.
So you guys have about 120 hours, well, not even that. Because you can't, is it 100 to 110 hours a week to work, basically?
Yeah.
Roughly? Wow.
That's a good estimate.
And then for my, doing the code enforcement and this, like Mondays, I never try to schedule myself to work with those guys because I always have a bunch of stuff in the weekend. Phone calls I gotta make, things to follow up on, complaints that I have to deal with. So, that kind of takes me out to a certain degree. Now, I am pretty flexible, so like if I gotta come in at night to do something, I just, come in late the next day. I just kind of flex my time depending on what I have going on. The part-time guys, again, calling them in, we've been lucky so far. We haven't had a day where we haven't had anybody ever make it, but, and then, like the one day it was a Sunday, and quite honestly, one of the full-time guys was at a cookout, and he's like, I got 2 beers. I'm like, I don't want you in here then. You know, and that's just, it's the, you know, you can't bring a guy in who's had 2 beers and haven't said, "I'm on a chainsaw or heavy equipment." But you can't say, "Oh, you guys can't ever have a beer." It's just the nature of the beast, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
So looking at this list, this looks more than likely it's gonna, bleed over to 2024.
Oh, absolutely.
Without question, and plus everything that's gonna be added onto that. So are you foreseeing, this kind of workload stretching 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
So here's the advantage, the upside is
This is incredible, by the way. This is something we've been missing for years. Just getting it on paper and then just to be able to prioritize it.
Yeah, and I don't see the workload really reducing. And the more these guys are able to do, they're trained to do, that they're willing to take on all kinds of jobs. And some of it, like pouring concrete, that's gonna be something else we're gonna start doing for these garbage cans. We're gonna go on form and pour concrete so we can bolt these new garbage cans in.
That's
So,
a great idea.
we're gonna pour some concrete in the park, hopefully this week, if the weather holds. So the more skill sets they get, the more they can do, the bigger the list gets. So, this past 12 months, I've really focused on getting them the tools they need. In the past, they've gone on like Harbor Freight and bought stuff like that. Well, if we're gonna do this kind of work, we're gonna get you good tools.
And that segues into my follow-up question, which is, do you have the resources you need, from tools to manpower to
Absolutely.
funding?
Manpower's the only thing.
And that's kind of what I wanted to see, just so we could get it on the table and say, hey, going forward, we know we're gonna have 4 years worth of work. Do we consider bringing another full-timer on or another part-timer on, or just scheduling those part-timers more often or something like that? Because I want to make sure that this is incredible, and I want to make sure that you have the resources you need to do what you need to do. But bringing a full-timer in when we've got 3 years worth of work isn't fair to that full-timer either, or your guys. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. What's our to-do list, and then we can start planting the seed on how to approach it. Do we do special details like you're talking about, bringing more people, allocate more hours to the department and stuff like that. So that's what I'm cognizant of as I look at this, and these are all great projects and have been needed for years. So we got to make sure we support you guys on how that works.
Yeah, and it's all budget driven. If the money isn't, the money's got to be allocated for the personnel. The easiest way would be allocating more part-time hours, but these guys are all full-time firefighters.
Right.
So there's a limit to what they can do and what they really want to do. And again, you get into summer, and things kind of wean off. So, if you, another full-time guy would be great.
I think we have a unique situation where Jason and Joe have been with us probably each at least 5 years. They're very dedicated to the village. I know Jason, I think, is still doing some firework at this point.
They're both done with it.
Are they both? So they're basically ours. I don't see there being a risk in losing them. And one of the things that we've done is to make sure that they're well paid for what they're doing. So we've looked at their positions, we've looked at their pay grades. The other thing is also true for the part-time people that we have working for us. It's just kind of ironic that they're all full-time firefighters elsewhere, but yet still keep coming back to do part-time stuff for us. So we have a unique group of people that allows us to be able to do the kinds of things that we're currently doing. I think if we're sitting here next year, to answer your question, Danny, and we have added additional projects that are the scope of what's on this list this year that we need to complete, then I think we need to start having the discussion about whether or not we do add that third person. This year is kind of unique because we didn't have the We Thrive grant on us or on our radar at the time that the budget was formulated for this year. So this is kind of in addition to kind of work that has come up this year.
And I see this situation now, and I just want to make sure if we've got I mean, we could throw a ton of resources and knock a lot of this stuff out, but then all of a sudden we've got nothing to do in year 2 or 3. So
Yeah.
I'm well aware of that balance. I just wanted to make sure that I understood, what the resource needs were, so that we can kind of marinate that going through the rest of 2023, and then when we start seeing what 2024 looks like, and because we might be getting new grants and stuff like that that create bigger projects.
Well, and that's a great problem to have.
Yeah,
All
oh,
of a
it's
sudden, you get a grant
fantastic.
for 11 grand, say, but you gotta have the work done by end of July. Like, okay, well.
Yeah.
So we shuffle things around and
Yeah,
that becomes a
the
priority.
biggest thing is to make sure you have the resources to do what you need to do, and that's why I said.
Right now, we're gonna get things, the big stuff done.
You guys are crushing it, actually, so.
And but again, the greater the capacity, the more things that could be done. And there's a lot of things that Ron and I have discussed about, potential projects for the future that would save us a ton of money by doing it in-house.
Yeah, just the electric, plumbing, and concrete alone. So if those skill sets are acquired, then and we don't have to go outside the village to get it. It's huge and highly efficient with the funds available. Good leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to make sure this group is aware that I think Jim has been a great addition to this area. I think his experience with the village previously and leadership skills and those kinds of things, we've really turned a good corner with the maintenance department. I appreciate that.
Just a big foot in the right place.
Buttering you
Well
up for the
done,
next
Senator.
project.
You were here, we were talking about trees.
Yeah.
Across the street, where the fence is down.
Yeah.
So part of your tree program, we're putting indigenous trees back in there.
Sweet. Yeah, so was this like a third, I believe, of the money is, basically it's stated that you guys, administration can use it either to pay your guys or for all trees, or the administration can decide how to use that with.
Well, I think it depends on what trees we put in there.
Yeah.
How big they're gonna get,
So the big question was removing the
Bradford.
Bradford pear that's there because it's invasive.
Terrible.
Not
Not
it's going to go away. And our intent is, rather than put that fence back up, is to put trees along it.
What's nice about this is it actually really is nice to kind of know what's happening. We're hearing everything like after the fact or second hand. So if you could do this, whatever, yearly or quarterly, or I don't know.
You tell me.
This is helpful. I mean, it's
Just
just
gotta
nice to
get the
know.
time right.
And it does, I think to Ron's point,
Like this.
Summertime.
I just got over to the gym and Ron's like, "Are you coming?" I'm like, "Oh, whatever."
on to Ron's point too, I've heard neighbors say, oh, we need the maintenance guys to do it for whatever, and this helps me understand, maybe I can want a voice to say, no, well, we gotta check.
Well, there's things that come up, like, picking up dead deers and, cold patch on the road. I mean, those things, they happen, and we're always wanting to do that. It's this, other projects that want to get added on, or why is my project not getting done as well? Maybe only 2 guys here, and, you know what I mean? So it's.
Yeah, no, I appreciate this.
Well, and it's not to say too, if something comes up that we can be a specific help to somebody and it's within the purview of village government to do that,
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll deal with it. We'll make room for it. But I think there's kind of I'm going to use the word capricious, sentiment out there that we have all these maintenance guys sitting around who can do stuff, and there's not a lot, and they're not sitting around, is kind of the message. I feel very comfortable that Jim is supervising them. I think they respect his supervision of them. I think we get a lot of work out of them.
I think they tolerate it. I don't know.
I'd like to think you're a good manager. What I appreciate is I don't feel like we have to watch what they're doing all the time, because I think stuff's getting done. So, and when there is an issue that something comes up, we know that they're there and they will go take care of it. We don't have to make 25 phone calls to find somebody to go pick up when there's an emergency that needs to be handled. So I think we're in a really good spot with that.
Yeah.
So,
And again, they have the tools that they need, more so than ever, and that's really important. So
Very much.
I'm happy with the way things are going.
So are we.
Well, that's good.
All right, well, we don't have any other business on tonight, except for to announce, the next meeting is July 17 at 5:30 PM. So any, wanna make a motion to adjourn?
Actually, I want to point out one thing. So, no, that's okay, that's all right, it just, there's, the minutes that we approved at the last executive committee meeting stated that an official review would be performed for the administrator for 2023 before May 8th. To the best of my knowledge, that has not happened, and it has not been like followed up as far as like listed on the agenda. So at the very least, I think it should continue to be listed on the agenda so that it's
Yeah. Yeah,
not forgotten.
I actually made a couple attempts to make it happen, but with the circumstances, it didn't happen. I would say it. Anyway, okay, I will make sure.
Okay, I just think there needs to be a record of like where that,
Okay.
what the status of that is.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, say
Aye.
aye.
So what's it say?
Thank you.
and we're clear.
Finance.